The West Virginia Mountaineers are coming out of Houston, Texas with a huge ranked upset 45-35 over the Houston Cougars. Is there a real chance that the Mountaineers could go bowling this year? Find out on this episode of the Cold Country Podcast.
You are now entering Cold Country.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Cold Country Podcast, where we discuss everything WVU sports. I'm your host, Ian McIntyre. Joining me, as always, Tyler Cobb and Matt Lombs. Gentlemen, how are we?
Dude, we're doing great.
I'm stealing Matt House thing. I'm happy to be here.
That's
Got
right.
on the Pat White jersey and in celebration.
Success has returned to Morgantown at last. Since the 13th of September, success is back in Morgantown. It's been a long time coming, and it's been in the making. Oh, my gosh. So, obviously, huge ranked upset for the Mountaineers, 45-35 over number 22, Houston. So, guys, are we back? That's what Mountaineer Nation is asking. I'll just say that going to a bowl game, still up in the air, 100%. Like, I don't want to make that prediction. But looking at Arizona State, they're missing Levitt. Looking at Colorado, looks good. If the offense can do what they did against Houston, against Texas Tech, I mean, who knows, dude? So, with Scotty Fox at the helm, who knows? We have a chance. But anyway, we're going to break down this Houston game and tell you what excites us and tell you what needs to still be improved. So before we hop into it, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow our Instagram, follow X, and don't forget about the Spotify. So you can see a little bit of the stats down below. Scotty Fox threw for 157 yards, not as many as he had against TCU, but he still did everything that you could ask out of a true freshman quarterback. Didn't turn the ball over. Kept making correct reads. Had a really good running performance as well. I didn't put his rushing stats up there, but had that rushing touchdown on the ground on that fourth down play. Awesome.
I was going to say, when you look at the box score, it felt like he had a lot more than just 157 yards.
Yeah.
Like, the 157 seems fairly mild. And I thought he threw the ball more efficiently as well, because some of those throws were like garbage time throws towards the end of the half. So I thought he played overall a good game against a really solid defense.
Yeah, we sort of exposed what Houston's defense was sort of wobbly against and unsure against. And, Scotty Fox, being a freshman, probably did not give Houston that much trouble in the film room. But on the field, that's a different story. And looking at Dior Hubbard, again, we were talking about rushing on the ground, and that was our point that we made pregame for Houston. You got to have success on the ground. You ran it for under 50 yards on TCU, and you were going to have success to have a chance against Houston on the ground. Dior Hubbard, 29 carries. Workhorse. Not the most efficient performance, but 108 yards and a touchdown. We got what we needed out of him. I think.
But they were tough runs.
Yeah.
You probably remember, was it the BYU game where he had more yards after contact than total yards?
Yeah, I forget the exact stats, but he had like 40 rushing yards, but 50 after contact.
It was tough. It was darn near as close. He had 108 total yards, which is only 3.7 yards a carry. 91 of them came after contact.
Holy cow.
Just as impressive of a performance in terms of he's still getting yards after contact. And I thought the O-line as a whole played better. I didn't think that they were great. And the PFF grades kind of mirror that. They were all graded out about average. Landon Livingston was the highest at 60.5, and Tykees Crawford was the lowest at 52.7. Like I said, I didn't think they played great. I didn't think they played terrible. There were a few plays that were definitely questionable in terms of, the pass rush getting to Scotty too fast or not giving the run game the breathing room that they needed. But Dior Hubbard did his thing in terms of turning the feet, keep chopping, just go forward. And that was huge for us. 246 rushing yards total as a team. So that's huge.
Yeah. And I know another thing we mentioned in the pregame show, talking about not only running and having success on the ground, but first down plays, how successful you needed to be on first down. And I know you tweeted about it. That opening drive that we had was just so surprising for WV fans to watch. The fact that we went down and got 7 on our first possession. And during that whole first possession, those first down plays, we were ripping off 5, 6, 7 yards on first down, which is super important because then you have options on your second and third down plays. So, uh, keeping the Houston defense on its toes, again, we mentioned that. Perfect job of doing that in the opening drive, and that set the tone for the rest of the game.
Interestingly enough, and I'd have to double check this, but I'm pretty sure that is the first opening drive touchdown we've had all season. And it marks the third time we have scored in the first quarter. And every time we've scored in the first quarter, we have won the football game. Now, that could be incorrect barring the TCU game because I can't remember if we scored. No, we did not. So, yeah, I know for a fact that all 3 times we've scored in the first quarter, we've won the football game. But that is, as far as I'm aware, the first time we've scored on the opening drive. And I was just shocked because, in my opinion, even the hit drives there at the end where Nico Marchio led the offense down the field, some of the decent drives against TCU at home last weekend, they were good drives. But in terms of analytically and schematically, establishing the run, just being able to do what you wanted on the ground, that first drive was just perfect. That is how you need to set the tone every single game. And so, promising to see, because we came out of the bye week following BYU, going to UCF, like, okay, this team has not made any improvements. If anything, we look worse. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks in a row, you look like you've made some form of jump on the offense with Scotty Fox under center. And the defense has, to an extent, played a little better than what they had in the previous conference games. So, we've seen some improvements. There was one play that I wanted to point out as well, because on that opening drive specifically, and mainly because we have harped on Clay Ash so much, there was a third and long-ish, kind of third and medium on that opening drive where Clay Ash, I think it was the one right after Dior Hubbard went out with a minor injury, kind of dinged up. Clay Ash comes in the game. That was his first broken tackle on a running play, and it ended up getting West Virginia the first down and continuing the drive. So he's had a lot of adversity and a lot of people chirping like a lot of people like us that he's obviously not listening to us, but a lot of people like us, other podcasters, other people on Twitter and social media and whatnot, telling him, hey, you're struggling right now, and he finds a way to keep a drive going that ends in points. So props to Clay Ash for sticking in there and continuing to get better from week to week.
Yeah, one thing that I've always tried to say whenever I have to criticize a player or, a coach is that I will never say that I don't believe they can't be better. I will never believe that I don't think they can turn it around and they're just done. I always want to believe in our guys because they're here for a reason. And I want to believe that they can do it. They have the ability, or else they wouldn't be here. So, yeah, again, props to Clay Ash. He did what he had to do. This entire running back room did what they had to do this whole game. And the defense, even though, like you said, it wasn't the best that we've seen, not as good as the TCU game, they still played better than their average Big 12 game this year. And pick 6 by Jordan Scruggs, huge when you look at the final score. We only would have won by 3 if that didn't happen. Yeah, huge momentum play. I don't know if we would have had as big a chance to win the game without that pick 6 play.
And Matt Lombs, I'll let you kind of touch on this because you brought it up before we started recording. In terms of what was the metric? Net success rate. Houston had us beat.
I was taking a look at
Houston won the game, but it was those forced turnovers and specifically that pick 6 that ends in 7 points that really flipped the momentum, flipped the script in a way. So that play was huge in particular.
Yeah, I mean, you take a look at the turnovers. Turnovers were the name of the game, I guess, for this game, West Virginia did a great job of not turning the ball over. I mean, we mentioned Scotty Fox's stats compared to TCU. He basically had half of everything that he had in TCU, but he turned the ball over 0 times, right? Compared to 2, I guess, for TCU.
Well, did he turn it? I don't think he turned it over against TCU, did he?
I think he had 2 interceptions off the top of
my
head.
Not against TCU. He had 2 against Pitt, but he did not turn the ball over against TCU. Either way, he's taking care of the ball.
Yeah, anyway, his QBR went from 40 to 95. So anyway, that's like a great improvement. And, when you win the turnover battle, I mean, West Virginia struggled to make something out of turnovers all year. So it was nice to at least get something in a pick six. But I guess like I was originally going to start with, you take away some of these turnovers, and this could be a very different game, and it could have painted a very different picture.
4 turnovers turns into 17 points, if I'm not mistaken, because you have the pick six. You had the weird interception, which we'll move over to the defensive side of the ball here in a second, but you had the weird interception from Michael Coates where it bounced off his foot, and was it Derek Carter was there to make a play, I believe. And those both turned into 7 points. No, the first interception off Michael Coates' foot, that turned into a field goal. The pick six obviously turns into 7, but then the fumble by Connor Wigman, that one turned into 7 off of a beautiful pass from Scotty Fox to Cam Vaughn. Cam Vaughn's only catch on the day. Lombs pointed that out to me also before we started recording. I was kind of shocked to hear that we only
incredibly quiet day for him.
Like, the one catch he does make was a heck of a catch in the back of the end zone off of a beautiful ball by Scotty. But, like, we've got to find a way to get him the ball more. I mean, he is a special kind of player. And so when you have that on your roster, you've got to find ways to get him the ball. But, yeah, like you said, we've struggled all year long. We've done pretty good at forcing turnovers, being in position to turn the ball over, which was something we were really bad at last year. But when we are forcing the turnovers, we can't do anything with it. And so this game, you force 4 turnovers, you find a way to get points off of 3 of them. That's huge.
100% needed because the offense was good, but they can't win the game by themselves. Just like early in the season, the defense can't win the game by themselves. And it was sort of a case of the opposite here, where we needed the defense to show up because we know Connor Wigman's dangerous. Amari Thomas is dangerous. Like those guys in the receiving room, Tanner Kozel too, the tight end. Amari Thomas had 3 touchdowns, which is crazy considering he only had 99 yards on the day. And
2 of them were ridiculous catches. I mean, that is a heck of a receiver. Amari Thomas is a heck of a receiver. So found a way to stay in it. I mean, if you told me that we were scoring 45 at the beginning of the week, I would have told you I don't even know. But I mean,
I picked us to score 10. So to score 45 is incredible.
To score 45 is quite ridiculous.
We matched our season high point total on Houston, a ranked opponent, the same amount of points we scored against Robert Morris, an FCS team.
That's also the most points we've scored against a Power 4 opponent since Dana. Neil Brown never got to 45 against a Power 4 opponent. And so I don't know what the difference was, because it's not, this Houston defense is not a slouch. We talked about it in the pregame show. Like, this is a difficult defense to play against, and you found a way to go out and score 45 points. You obviously do get some help from the turnovers, which was something else we talked about in the previous show. We talked about the importance of turnovers. Houston has only lost 1 other game, and Texas Tech forced 3 turnovers. West Virginia finds a way to force them and get points off of them. So in terms of offense, Scotty Fox in at QB1, Dior Hubbard and Sincere Bowers played their tails off, and then the receiving, they were there when they needed to be. I thought it was just overall well-rounded. And I wanted to say this as well because I don't think they'll get as much love. Ryan Ward and Jacob Barrick blocked their tails off all day long. Like, we have not been able to do very much inside stuff because the offensive line has struggled. So a lot of our runs are going outside zone, outside runs, that type of thing. And the one Sincere Bowers run that went for about 20-ish yards and a touchdown, I mean, it was Ryan Ward and Jacob Barrick leading the way in terms of tackling. So those guys deserve some props as well. That's the Rich Rod offense. You've got to have tight ends. You've got to have receivers that are going to block downfield and that they're willing to do the dirty work, so to speak, not just get flashy catches and touchdowns. So Jacob Eric and Ryan Ward, they deserve some props as well.
Absolutely. And these are all things we can continue to build off of going into next season, regardless of the outcome of these next 3 games. You got to build off of performances like this. And it does a lot for the guys' mental psyche whenever they're out on the field, struggling so much. That affects you as a player. And it is so nice to get a bounce back win like this, especially against a ranked opponent on the road. Speaking of which, I think it's hilarious how we can nearly fill up a stadium at 2-6, where Houston's ranked number 22. They're 7-1, and they don't have
Empty.
half the stadium
It
full.
truly is embarrassing that they can't fill up their stadium for any game.
And I mean, I expect Milan Pushkar to be relatively full this weekend
Yeah.
now. I mean, you coming off a win like this, like I understand you're 3-6. You mentioned the bowl game. I doubt we get there. That's a very optimistic view. The Colorado game looks winnable. And coming off of a game where you win on the road against a ranked opponent, if you can put 45, 50,000 people in the stands again, what do we have against TCU? 57? 54?
54,
I think it was
54,000.
54. So, I mean, Colorado, I think the Milan Pushkar will be decently full as well.
What's the theme for the game? Do we know?
It's military appreciation.
Yeah, just
True blue?
military appreciation. I imagine it'll be
Okay.
true blue. We haven't wore all blue all week or all year, so I imagine that'll be the uniforms.
I think it'll be true blue uniforms, and then the crowd will either wear blue or whatever military merch they have, which some of it's pretty fire. So it should be an interesting merch game. And like Tyler, to your point, I think that the crowd is probably going to be nearly the same size as Coal Rush because of Coach Prime.
That's a huge point as well.
Yeah, so he's going to be there, and he's gotten blown out 2 weeks in a row. He's not coming to Morgantown to play around. So
No, I mean, it looks like a winnable game now. The spread, West Virginia is finally favored in terms of the spread in the odds market. But you can't just take this and assume you're going to win. You've still got to play the type of football that West Virginia needs to play to get a win.
Yeah, I think we can.
I hope so. I hope the offense shows up and the defense does what they did, and that kind of transitions us over to the defense, and the turnovers were the story.
Yeah, 100%. Jordan Scruggs pick 6, like we said before, would have been a completely different game without it. One thing I did want to bring up, I know we mentioned the officials last week too, but it seemed like those pass interference calls, there were 2 or 3 of them that were just, atrocious calls.
It felt like they were propping Houston up, especially in the first half.
And we weren't the only ones that saw it. I mean, Rod was down there pacing on the sideline, red as a tomato, so yelling at the refs. So we weren't the only ones that saw it. Very interesting calls, especially that first one on Michael Coates, where it kind of looked like the receiver just fell and Michael Coates kind of fell with him, and they called it a pass interference when, I didn't think it was a pass interference, but I'm a biased fan, so I'm not going to say.
Yeah.
Not going to say that it wasn't.
A question I have is I know hand placement plays a part in the pass interference. You can't be grabbing a guy by the hips and affecting the way he moves. But at the same time, I don't think a hand on a dude's back is affecting his ability to pass the ball or catch the ball.
What was frustrating me is that the general rule of thumb is make a play on the ball, trying to make a play on the ball, and most of the time you'll be okay. And I thought 2 or 3 of the pass interference calls, our DBs were making a play on the ball.
Yeah.
And they still called the pass interference. And it wasn't like we were getting there super early to where we were hitting
it's incredibly bang. We got there as soon as the ball touched the receiver's hands.
It was basically simultaneously the receiver and the DB were touching the ball at the same time. But the play was the play that the DBs were attempting to make was on the ball. It wasn't like we were just shoving the receiver so that they couldn't make a catch. So they were very ticky-tack. I disagreed with a bunch of them, especially when you look on the opposite side. There was one in particular that I posted out on Twitter where the Houston defender just grabbed the back of Cam Fawn's jersey across the middle of the field. Clear as day holding call on the defense, and it was not called. And that
I think I even saw another one too, where they basically mugged Rodney Gallagher at the line to gain, and that went uncalled as well.
There were several that were ticky-tack, but we won the game. Like I said, I don't want to blame the refs too much. Somebody I did want to point out was Jamori Robinson, because finally showed up. had a
Had
sack,
half a sack. Yeah, had half a sack and
2
a fumble
tackles,
recovery.
and one of the fumble recoveries. And so I don't know where he's been for the past couple of weeks, but he decided to show up today in a big way. So props to number 0 on the line for, making a crucial play out there during the second quarter.
Yeah, Corey McIntyre shared that sack with Jamori. Then Devin Grant and Fred Perry had 1 sack each of their own. Of course, Fred Perry's got to be mentioned. he's at the top of our defensive. He's at the top of our defensive statistics. So we got 3 sacks on Connor Weekman, and looking at the rushing stats here, he had 12 carries for negative 27 yards. So he did have his own rushing touchdown, but.
And a lot of that pressure was, we generated a lot of pressure. Some of them didn't end up being sacks, but they were, QB hurries or QB pressures. It wasn't on plays where we were blitzing. I thought we did a good job of, if we were rushing 4, rushing 3, you still got good pressure on Wigman. And that is, he's had problems with this all year long, but I think that's a large reason why you saw him have some ball security issues in the pocket. I mean, the one fumble that Jamori Robinson recovered, nobody touched him. He just kind of dropped the ball on his, winding up and to go pass. Yeah. I don't know what, he's got that's something you got to figure out on your side.
Sweaty hands. You
were still generating pressure. So props to the defense, man. You let them score 35 points, and there's clear tackling issues. You've got to do a better job tackling in the open field, but you did enough to give the offense a chance to go win the game.
Also, I was going to bring up, we had 2 separate instances of 3rd and 16 and a chance to get a huge stop and get a forced punt, and we gave up the 3rd and 16 play. That happened 2 separate times.
And you gave up 2 4th downs as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you're probably not wrong.
They were 2 for 2 on. Yeah, they were 2 for 2 on 4th down. So they were 7 for 12 on end of downs or get off the field opportunities. I mean,
yeah.
I think I tweeted out during the game that I would rather them be in a 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5 situation than a 3rd and long, because it just felt like every time Houston had a 3rd and long, they were getting it, easily getting it. Like it wasn't even a question.
What hurts even worse about that is that they were in the middle of the game, or it was going to be a momentum swing. And you just gave it up and squandered the momentum for the moment. That was the issue. But again, like we said, that Jordy Scruggs return to the house sort of changed things for us. And then our clock management on the last drive of the game didn't leave much to doubt, and we kneeled it out and called it a day. So
the fumble on the punt was just that kind of sealed it. It was that kind of day for Houston where it just bounced off a guy's ankle and into West Virginia hands. So.
Muff punt.
Yeah. Gotta keep going with that.
Yep. So okay day for the defense. That's what I'll say. Question of the day here: is Scotty Fox the QB1 in the future? So I have an interesting take on this, and I won't read too far into it because obviously we have 3 games to go. Who knows what he's going to look like even in next year. But I think at this point in time, you still try to go find somebody in the portal, whether it be a big name or someone can perform. I think you still try to hunt somebody out. But I think if you don't necessarily have success getting a big name or somebody from a big school and somebody who's, proven, I think we're okay with Scotty Fox. And it's not going to kill me over the offseason to say that Scotty Fox is going to be my starter for next year, especially if we use those portal opportunities to improve other parts of the roster. So from my perspective, I still think you need to try to take a chance and see if you can get a splash in the quarterback transfer portal. But Scotty Fox starting is not the worst thing in the world.
So you think your definition of future is not necessarily just next year. So you still see him being the quarterback of the future, just maybe not number 1 for next season.
Yeah. I think it would be beneficial for him to develop another year in a system where the season isn't so lost as it is now. I mean, not to say that it's absolutely lost, because we're still somehow in the hunt for a bowl game. But you know the point I'm trying to make.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the Ear Sports guys, their way of breaking it down was perfect, because whether or not Scotty Fox is your QB1 next year or not doesn't matter because you're going to have to go get a quarterback either way, simply because of depth. I imagine Henderson is gone.
Yep.
Nico is gone. I'm not 100% sure on the Max Brown eligibility situation, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's not here next year, and I'd have to check on, like I said, the eligibility situation with him. Khalil Wilkins, if a redshirt freshman quarterback sees that Scotty Fox is getting QB1 reps consistently, and Khalil Wilkins has fallen to the QB2, and he thinks that he can be a starter at the Power 4 level, does he stick around? And so it's less of a question of, do I have to go get a quarterback in the portal, and more of how much money that we have am I willing to spend on a quarterback in the portal based on how comfortable I am with Scotty Fox. If you have an allotment of money, and the Ear Sports guys, not Skylar Callahan, sorry, Mike Casaz and Chris Anderson, they use the $1 million. It's not $1 million. Just as an example, if you have $1 million to spend on your roster and you have so many positions of needs, do you spend 500,000 of it on a quarterback and then divvy up the 500,000 between the rest of the players? Or are you comfortable enough with Scotty Fox to only spend $100,000 on a quarterback that you may or may not need if Scotty Fox goes down, and use the 900,000 that you have left on other players, so you have more money to build around him? And so what that decision is, in my opinion, is going to come heavily down to the last couple games. Scotty Fox still threw 2 interceptions to Pitt. He's still a freshman. He still makes freshman mistakes. But the past 2 games, he's looked very solid. He's looked poised in the pocket. He played his heart out this game. The 4th and 4, where he converted all the way to the touchdown, I thought was, the epitome of what we can see out of Scotty Fox. Like, you're in a situation where you need points if you want to feel comfortable in a game against a really solid team, and he found a way to get through an offensive line, which was a gutsy call by Rich Rod in that situation. He's shown that he can be the QB1. He's a true freshman, making the types of plays that he's making, and he will develop. As of right now, I'm semi-comfortable with Scotty Fox. However, like I said, it's going to come down to whether or not, or how good he plays in these remaining 3 games. Does he continue to do what he's doing and, not light the world on fire, but take care of the football, use his legs when he needs to, put guys in positions to make plays, that kind of thing? Or does he go back to the Scotty Fox we saw against Pitt, where he's getting pressured, kind of panics, throws to the other team? Again, it's not a question of whether or not I need to go get a quarterback out of the portal. It's about how much money am I willing to spend on a quarterback in the portal. Right now, I like what I see out of Scotty Fox. The next 3 games are going to be huge for how I feel going into next year.
Yeah,
I have to say, I'm gonna say I have to say I agree. I mean, why not just ask Scotty Fox? I mean, he might have an opinion that he might want to sit behind an older quarterback again for a year to further enhance his development. I mean, obviously every athlete wants to play, but I
was
mean,
gonna say, I doubt that's the case.
maturity would say, like, maybe he'd recognize, like, I still have room to grow behind someone. And, like, I don't necessarily disagree with you, where I think we get good enough play out of him that we don't need a slam dunk quarterback. I like the idea of, like, a Jalen Henderson type quarterback coming in. I mean, obviously, we wish that Jalen Henderson was able to play at a higher level here compared to what he did at Texas A&M. But, like, generally speaking, I don't hate the same general situation. I still would rather see him as QB1, but I do want an older quarterback in there that could maybe mentor him.
I mean, I don't disagree with that. I really think what you do in the portal depends on if Scotty Fox and Khalil Wilkins both stick around. If both of them stick around, you go pick a guy up that's willing to, if you're assuming Scotty Fox is your QB1 and you don't want to spend a ton of money on a guy at the quarterback position, you go pick somebody up that's maybe at the lower level of G5 or lower level of Power 4 that has some experience that can come in and be that quote unquote QB3 that's there to serve as backup, mentoring Scotty Fox and Khalil Wilkins. But if Khalil Wilkins isn't there and you need a certified QB2, because we've seen how many hits our quarterbacks are taking, right? I mean, it's not sooner or later something's going to happen. And we saw that against Pat White in 2007. He ran the ball. That was his thing. He was a dual threat quarterback that was not afraid to take off and run the ball. He gets injured in the pit game, and we all know the rest. You can't just have one quarterback that you're comfortable with in this system. You have to have at least two guys that you are comfortable with enough to run the offense. And so, like I said, it how much or how big of a splash you go out and make really depends on how Scotty performs in these last 3 games and on whether or not if Khalil sticks around.
Yeah, I think Khalil has a part to play, right? Like you said, because someone who can mentor Scotty Fox is super important. And, this is, I'm going to make an NFL reference. The NFL's not college, right? Different rules. Players play for 15 years instead of 4, whatever. You look at Jordan Love and how he sat behind Aaron Rodgers for so long. And then Jordan Love, when he finally got his opportunity, was the exact quarterback that Green Bay needed. So mentoring young quarterbacks is super important. And I think, Scotty Fox obviously couldn't have guessed that he would be in the starting role this year with the amount of injuries that we've had. And I don't know, like Loam said, the maturity aspect of it says that maybe he should develop another year. But at the same time, if he goes out and plays these next 3 games and he throws for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns against Texas Tech, I'm pretty sold.
I'd be so juiced.
But
yeah.
A note there is, Jordan Love sat behind Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers that had played in the same system for a very, very long time. Whereas if you bring in a quarterback from the portal, Scotty Fox already has more experience in Rich Rod's system than whoever you bring in, even if they are a splash. And so, in all technicality, Scotty Fox is the veteran in that scenario. He has a year under his belt running Rich Rod's system and, that high-powered, fast-paced offense, run heavy, that kind of offense. And so, even if you do go out and make a splash, who's to say that Scotty Fox isn't more experienced than that guy? And so
I'm not saying the system doesn't matter, because it does, but just having someone older and someone who's already been there, even they necessarily haven't been the best in their respective conference or division or whatever, that plays its own part somehow. Like it helps. It's not gonna be to Scotty Fox's detriment either. So
it's very nuanced, and like I said, it'll come down to the last 3 games. But if Scotty Fox plays well through these last 3, takes care of the ball, doesn't have many turnovers, if any, is making smart decisions, taking care of his own body, and not taking unnecessary hits, I'm comfortable enough with him next year that I would rather have him grow all 4 years that he has in the gold and blue than to go out and take a shot on a guy like Henderson that, we thought going into the year would make an impact, whereas he has not.
Lum, you have something to add? I thought you were going to say something.
I was going to say, potentially, though, we're talking about sitting behind someone. What if it is the opposite? What if Scotty feels that the best way for him to grow is an iron sharpens iron mentality? Maybe that is why we're seeing such major growth out of him, when instead of competing against Nico and Jalen Henderson, he's competing against another freshman. So it could also be that. So, I guess it kind of depends. I think obviously he's our quarterback 1. So, I think the decision would be up to him, but maybe he'd want to go that approach, and that would all, I guess, be dependent on if Khalil would want to stay as well. But you know what I'm saying.
We won the football game. That's all that matters.
We won the game.
It's very nuanced. There's a lot of different aspects.
Bro,
Including,
just ask him. Just ask him what he wants,
well, it's
dude.
not just Scotty. He's not the
Hey,
one who
Scotty,
makes
you
the
playing
decision on
next
who to
year?
start.
Scotty, what do you want? You want the
What
checkbook, Scotty?
Let's
DM
ask
him on Twitter.
Let's maybe ask the coach who he thinks should start at quarterback one. Maybe not the players.
Scotty Fox or Portal or Khalil Williams.
Rich Rod couldn't make up his mind who he wanted to start. He changed the quarterback every quarter. I don't trust
Well,
him yet.
I think that was because at the time we didn't really have a quarterback, because our best quarterback was the total opposite style of quarterback that you needed for this offense. You had two that are freshmen and one that was just struggling in Henderson. And so you had Nico, didn't fit the offense, Henderson struggling, and two freshmen. So what do you do if you're Rich Rod in that scenario?
Start Max Brown.
Fair enough.
Put himself in.
Scott Keene.
Yep.
Scott Keene. Wouldn't it be funny if he stayed and ended up being QB1?
I think he has one more year
So
of eligibility. He
Emergency
could
start.
technically stay.
we need all the depth that we can get for next year. Let's be honest. We've been through
Mhm.
the injury ring too much.
It's this year has been absolutely ridiculous. I mean, what does the year look like if you don't have the injuries that you have? I don't know if Jaheim White and Jaden Bray make that much of a difference on offense that you find a way to beat Kansas, Utah, BYU, UCF, maybe UCF, but the other ones, I don't know. The Ohio game is the one that it comes down to. Like, if you find a way to win these next two against Colorado and Arizona State, you're going to be looking back at that Ohio game thinking, why?
I know it's crazy to think, because I just mentioned that to myself earlier. What if we won that Ohio game? We're looking completely different right now, even after the bleak UCF loss. And if we still have Jaheim White, I think he's worth at least one win somewhere
He's
on
worth
the
he's
schedule.
worth the TCU game at minimum, in my opinion.
That's fair too.
That's true too, because the main problem in that game was your inability to run the ball. So if you have Jaheim White through all four quarters, I think you beat Ohio. And so instead of 3-6, you found a way against TCU and Ohio. You're looking at
4-4.
5-4.
We're looking at needing to beat up a weak Colorado team to go bowling. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
You're looking at 5-4 with an opportunity to go bowling and finish the year at the very least 6-6, and at the very most 8-4. I mean, that is a vast difference between what I thought following, the Kansas and Utah games. I was sitting up here saying 2-10 is the max. Now you're sitting here looking at, okay, 4-8, 5-7 is doable. 6-6 is theoretically possible. And if you had Jaheim White, you're looking at 7-5, 8-4.
I don't know. I guess we're undefeated in hypotheticals.
And we're not the SEC.
We are dealing with the SEC right now. At the end of the day, we're 3-6, just looking to get to the end of the year and maybe win a football game or two.
It's hard to be a West Virginia fan. We go through it too much. One of the most cursed fan bases in the country, no doubt about it.
The basketball team got to win too. So
hey, we only beat Mount St. Mary's by 14. Let's go. At least we didn't lose.
First game of the year, got to get some momentum going.
Yeah, guys got to build chemistry. You can tell that was a thing. I watched the whole game. Chemistry's a thing. They'll work it out. I'm excited for the boys this season. I think they can do well. Anyway, let's move on. Talk a little bit about playoff projections. So the college football playoff, was it rankings? It's not like a poll, but like the first playoff rankings came out today. And was it the AP that made it, or was it ESPN? I think it was the AP.
I believe it's the selection committee.
No, it's just the college football.
It's just a committee.
Yeah.
Okay, so from now on, this is like really the only list that matters, because anyone who's outside of those projections, it doesn't matter if you're in the AP or not, you're not getting to the playoffs. So this is what matters the rest of the year. So I can go ahead and pull it up, Tyler, if you would like to discuss a little more about it.
Is this on my list?
Yes, your list is in here.
So this is not the current rankings. This is how I would have it play out if I were in charge. It is, the large. largely the same.
Could we Jarvis enhance on this? I can't see the seed numbers.
Yeah, it is
Jarvis
a little
and
far. It
Haynes.
is what it is. Right now, we have the same 1 seed. I'm comparing mine to the playoff committee. Ohio State 1, Indiana 2, A&M 3. We differ. I'm still in the opinion that BYU should be 4. 8-0 is 8-0. You have a win over a Utah team that looks better and better as the year goes on. So I'm having BYU 4, Alabama 5, Georgia 6, which is in the same order except moving BYU up. Man, I don't even know who I have 7 because I'm getting lost in the Ole Miss.
Ole Miss is 7.
Ole Miss 7, Texas Tech 8, Oregon 9, Texas 10. That one's going to be one to talk about. Virginia 11, James Madison 12. Texas is out of the actual college football playoff rankings. They're a little lower. They have Notre Dame 10, Virginia 11, as do I, and they have Memphis as the G5 bid. So this is using the rules that 5 conference champions have to make it. I'm saying James Madison right now deserves the G5 spot a little bit over Memphis. I'm going to turn this off because it's kind of in our.
I mean, I know we're making our lists based off of information available now, but I mean, for Group of 5, you do kind of have to do a little bit of predicting for your pick here.
You do have to do a little bit. If the season ended today, I'm giving it to James Madison just by the just barely. I mean, it's between them and Memphis. Memphis has a loss to a G5 team. James Madison has a loss to a borderline playoff team in Louisville. So I'm giving the edge to Memphis or James Madison right now. The committee has it being going to Memphis. Either way, they're the same seed. It'll come down to these last couple games. The only other note is Texas over Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's way too high. They've beaten USC and lost to a team that is currently ranked number 3 and a team that gets lower and lower as the year goes on. Mario Cristobal November Masterclass. Disaster class, if you will.
So I made my playoff bracket. I don't have it pulled up here, but I made my bracket based on my prediction for the end of the year. So that's the difference between mine and yours, Tyler. So right now, I don't hate your list. So I do think I have Notre Dame in mind because I think they went out and the committee is going to look at that and say it's a 10-2 Notre Dame team. We can't leave them out because it's the same thing as the Texas Longhorn, which is why I like that you have them in here right now. The Longhorn does a lot for your playoff chances, just the logo. And I think Notre Dame is the same. And if they went out and go 10-2, I think Notre Dame makes it in. I do not have Texas in my playoff bid. Not sure if they drop a game remaining on their schedule.
It kind of looks likely.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. So that's why I don't have them in there. I also agree with you with the inclusion of James Madison. If it had to be right now, I'm with you. I put James Madison in this Group of 5 bid. But for my opinion, on the end of the year, I have South Florida in there as the 12th because I believe they can win out and win the American Conference. So that's why I have South Florida in there.
The race between Memphis, USF, and North Texas is going to be interesting to
Yeah, the American Conference is low key just as fun to watch as any of the power conferences. So
this
race
for me, this is what I would have if the season ended right now. If it was projections, I as well as you have Notre Dame in at 10-2, and then. Excuse me. The only other difference is I have Louisville in over Virginia because I imagine Louisville and Virginia are the ACC title contender teams. They're the 2 teams that make it, and I think Louisville gets the better of Virginia the second time around. But if the season ended today, this is what I would have.
That's fair enough. I mean, other than JMU in there right now and Texas, we discussed that. We have all the same teams in there, just in different orders. I'm guessing depending on conference champions and who even plays in the championship in the first place. So I'm with you. I have Ohio State winning the whole thing right now, going back to back.
Defensively, they've looked ridiculous. Indiana, I still think can give them a run for their money. especially with that high-powered offense with Fernando Mendoza. I just think Ohio State is so good defensively, and Julian Sayin is playing so out of his mind in terms of efficiency that they look like the best team in the country. I do have them beat Alabama. I think that's a good game. Alabama is probably as Matt Lom said last episode, I believe the hottest team in the country. They lose to Florida State, and they have not skipped a beat since then. It's close.
Ty
That
Simpson
would be a
versus
good
Julian
game.
Sayin
That'd be a really
in the
good game.
playoff. Julian Sayin's currently the favorite to win the Heisman, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's plus 175 on DraftKings Sportsbook.
Back to the CFP. We only put the top 12 in here because, the top 12 is the only ones that really matter. In terms of the 25, there's one in particular we talked about beforehand, and it's only about a skip and a hop away from Morgantown up in Pittsburgh. They land at 24. I'm going to be a hater and say they shouldn't be there. What do y'all have to say?
If it were me, I probably wouldn't include them in the rankings right now, but I know you feel strongly against it, but I can see why they got votes in the AP poll, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like how I was mentioning to you guys before we started recording. I mean, Pitt is basically Houston in a different font. I mean, their wins are against teams that have basically struggled or have a losing record. So, I mean, for Houston to be ranked, what were they, 22 or 23?
Well, Houston
Let me
is
look
not.
that
I'm talking strictly.
I'm talking last week. Last week.
Last week Houston was 22.
So for Pitt to be 23, now
But
do I agree they should be there? No, but if it doesn't get me super upset, I just disagree.
last week Houston didn't have a loss to West Virginia. This week they do. Houston is not ranked. I don't have either of them ranked in my personal top 25. It's just something to note because they're 0-1 against ranked teams, and that's Louisville. They have a really bad loss to us, and they're 5-0 or 6-0 against everybody else. And everybody else, I believe, has a combined, not including Duquesne, I believe has a combined record of 16-28. Their past 5 opponents have a combined record of 16-28. And it's just not enough for me. Right behind them at 25 is Tennessee. I think that's ridiculous as well. The fact that you don't rank any G5 team, Memphis is that 12 spot in their CFP rankings, but they're not in the top 25. Yet you have Tennessee in there that's 0-3 against the only 3 ranked teams they've played this season. Again, seems kind of ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I don't disagree that you don't have one G5 team in there. Again, I see your point with Pitt, but I'm sort of indifferent about it because the way I'm looking at it, I would love if they were in the conversation and their loss against us kept them out of it.
Oh, I still think that would be the funniest thing ever.
That's what I'm rooting for.
If they went out and either lose one more game or get left out with 2 losses and one of them happens to beat us, yeah, go for it. That's all fine and dandy. I'm just saying I don't think they have the resume to be right there in the top 25 just yet. They'd be around the 27, 28-ish mark.
Yeah, I see why they're getting votes.
There's a couple things to note. Notre Dame above Virginia and Louisville at this point seems interesting to me, given Notre Dame's 6-2 with 1 ranked win. Virginia and Louisville are both 7-1 with Virginia has a ranked win over Louisville, and Louisville has a ranked win over Virginia and 2 ranked wins over Virginia and Miami. I don't believe Virginia has another one.
No, and Florida State, right?
I'm saying currently ranked.
Currently ranked, okay.
Currently ranked.
So, never mind.
So, something we talked about beforehand was Utah or Texas, who should get that 10 spot. Because Virginia and James Madison and our model are getting it by default because they win the conference. So Texas gets that last at-large bid. It's just it's right there, but for me, it's neck and neck between Texas and Utah. I think the Oklahoma win boosts Texas a lot more than the Cincinnati win for me.
Yeah, that's fair. Red River, it's a rivalry game. I think that's sort of what the committee is taking into consideration with Pitt as well when they're looking at the WVU loss, that it's a rivalry game
On the
um,
road too.
on the road. So,
In
yeah,
overtime.
weird thing, weird thing to consider. You keep piling on to it. Yeah, it's a weird thing to consider.
Other than that, I don't see anything too bad. We've talked about it for the last couple of weeks that the top three could kind of be in any order. I would have BYU higher, but the next three is Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Oregon in any order, or Texas Tech, Oregon in any order. So, not a ton of controversy in my eyes. Just
Yep.
a couple things here and there.
Yeah, the numbers start to matter less, especially when you start to see certain teams separate from the rest of the pack. So
If you ask me, there's only 4 or 5 teams I think capable of winning it all this year.
That's not a atrocious thing to say because
yeah,
the way that the SEC and Big Ten have sort of separated themselves in the poll, apart from BYU and Texas Tech, right? Like they're up there, but like the ACC has sort of fallen off. I mean, you look at Miami losing to SMU, and then Florida State being where they are, Georgia Tech falling to NC State. You really only have Virginia up there, who's also looked very questionable against the likes of North Carolina. Uh, in
it's like you said, Virginia's playing like they're trying to give away a game.
Yeah.
So
I think those teams right now, like Ohio State could obviously win it, Indiana, A&M, Alabama, Georgia. Ole Miss is right there on the border. I see them struggling if they end up matching up against one of those top 5. They obviously have a loss to one of those at Georgia. So Ole Miss is right there on the border. I don't know if they could do it. BYU and Texas Tech, I don't think they match up well against either of, Ohio State, Alabama, Oregon. You lose by 10 at home to Indiana. So
yeah.
can you do it when the game matters and it's on the line? I like you, Dan Lanning, but I just don't know. Notre Dame is again questionable because one of the teams that we're including is in that conversation is A&M, and Notre Dame has a 1-point loss to them.
Yeah.
So
You talking about Dan Lanning, him and Dylan Gabriel were no shows in the playoffs last year. So does
yeah,
it
you
happen
get
again?
you get your opportunity to beat the eventual national championships, and you lay a goose egg. So.
Yep.
Can you do it this year against an Ohio State team whose defense looks elite, an Indiana team whose offense looks elite? Same goes for A&M. Like I said, only about 5 or 6 teams I think capable of winning it all.
Yeah, you're right. It's going to be an interesting race to the end. I mean, we still got plenty of football left to play. We're going to do our pick'ems for Week 11 on next show, which Matt and I are tied.
It's crazy.
Yeah, 63 and 37 is our record. So,
And I'm 7 games behind. I've got some catching up to do. I did not have a good week last week.
well, honestly, it seems bad, but there are probably a lot more people out there who are worse than you record wise.
Yeah,
in picking their games. So
above 500 is honestly a win for me. So
yeah, this is where things start getting fishy for me because teams have settled in. We sort of know their identity. But then somehow, like if you're Miami, you go on the road and throw a game. Like it's really weird.
never bet on Mario Cristobal in the month of November. So
I know that much. I know that much.
they get Syracuse at home. Can Syracuse find a way to keep them out of the playoffs again?
It's funny that we have to mention Miami and Syracuse in the same light. Who wins? It's a toss-up.
You never know with Cristobal in November. That's all I got to say.
Dude, what is it with like half of the Nick Saban coaching tree being legendary and the other half just can't even coach G5 ball?
I
Like,
wouldn't even
what's
say
going
that.
on?
I wouldn't even say that Cristobal is not a good coach. He just cannot win when it
When it
matters.
matters.
When it
Yeah.
matters.
James
Isn't that
Franklin.
just like the tier of coaches? Like certain coaches just can't win when the lights are the brightest.
Well, I mean, Ryan Day and Kirby Smart have both proven that they can. Kurt Signetti is getting to that point. I would argue that Marcus Freeman has proved that he can. He beats Georgia and Indiana both last year in the playoffs.
It could
Kalen
happen.
DeBoer. Are we putting Kalen
Yeah.
DeBoer? I mean, he beat Texas in
He
23.
can, but I don't fully trust him.
Right.
He's
That
beaten Georgia twice. he's had 2 opportunities to beat the Bulldogs, and he's done it twice. So
Maybe I'd trust him in
You
the
tell
bright
me.
lights, but not when it really doesn't matter.
fair enough. Who else? Steve Sarkisian. I don't even know if I would say I'd trust Steve Sarkisian.
Hey, I wouldn't. He seems like he's going to go to the NFL. So
I definitely don't trust Venables, Kyle Whittingham. You know, I do trust him as a coach to win the big games, but just the last couple of years have been rough. Brent Key. Give me Brent Key when it matters.
hey, he just lost to NC State.
I didn't say when it doesn't matter.
We love college football. All right, guys. Do you have anything else to add before we wrap it up?
I'm rambling. I don't have anything.
Yeah, I'm all good.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this episode of the Cold Country Podcast. Like the video. Again, leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. Helps us out in the algorithm. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Love to see you guys join our little West Virginia sports community. We love talking with you guys. Follow the Instagram, follow the X, and don't forget about our Spotify either. This episode will be there. So, from me, from Tyler, and from Lombs, we will see you guys on the next episode.
Goodbye, America.